Hello lovelies and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to do an update on depth year. So I started a depth year at the start of 2022. My rules for depth year were not buying anything. So no books, no jewellery, no makeup, no clothes, no tarot decks. Nothing till the end of the year. That was my rule. It was to try and make me reconnect and go deep with the things I'd already got. I had felt a lot of my addictive tendencies coming in with shopping, always wanting another deck, never being satisfied. Then the deck overwhelm that so many people talk about, but more than that, it was like a things overwhelm. I have a very busy house. I do art, I do tarot, I do mixed media, I collect things. So it just began to feel too much overwhelm, too much stuff. I wanted to just calm it all down, pause, reassess, connect with what I've already got and see what I could find out about myself. So we got 9 months into depth year and it is over. I have called a end to depth year for a number of reasons, and I wanted to share those reasons with you, how I did and what I learned. So an update on depth year, here we go. So how did I do? So let's start with the biggie decks. So I had a lot of decks. I was buying a lot of decks last year and I really felt it most in the area of decks. So I haven't bought a deck all year up until I got a notification through. The only notification I left on my phone for my unicorn deck. It came up on eBay in the UK. It came up really cheap. The seller was away on holiday though, so the listing sat there for weeks and weeks while the seller was away on holiday. I sent them a message saying I'd be really interested in the deck. I just thought that when he got back from holiday it would have sold to somebody else or the price would go out the stratosphere like it normally does. But he just messaged me back and said, if you want it for that, fine, just pay for it today. And it's this one. Barbara Walker, Ching of the Goddess. I always knew when I went on depth year that if this one deck came up, then this would be the one deck that I would end up buying. And it happened. It happened about 2 months ago. I haven't even looked at it, which kind of tells you why there was a need for depth year. But oh my gosh, I was so excited to get it. Barbara Walker's been with me for a long time. She's been with me even when pre-tarot, when I was a youngster, because my knitting books on my knitting degree course were Barbara Walker, which I didn't realise, and they're the only books that I own that literally are falling apart from overuse. But I love this. You've got the Ching system in there, which is something that I'd like to learn. You've got goddess power in there as well. You've got Barbara Walker's incredible illustration style and artwork. There's just something about this deck. I'd seen it a few times. Sylvain over at Sylvain's Deadly Sins shows this deck quite a bit, and I'd said to him there and then that this is my unicorn deck. So to be honest, I was about 7 or 8 months into my no buy. I hadn't bought a single deck. I didn't feel any guilt at all about ordering this deck. I just didn't. And that's one of the nice things about depth year. My first thing I'm going to talk about is it takes the guilt out of spending. I think when I was constantly ordering and constantly clicking off depth flip throughs and running to eBay and buying the next deck, even if they were all second-hand bargains, which they needed to be. It's not like I was doing it on, say, Kickstarter or with really expensive decks. But even so, there was still some guilt involved because there was an overspend all the time, and it made me scared to check my money. I didn't ever go beyond my means, but I really pushed myself to the limit of my means. But when I bought this, I paid about £28, I think, for this. because I hadn't spent anything up until that point on decks, there was just pure enjoyment. There was no guilt, even though I knew I would have to come and make a video and tell you guys, hey, I actually bought a deck. I didn't mind at all. And look at some of these images, isn't it amazing? So that's the first thing I realised. The guilt was gone from my spending. Also, without all the bits and pieces of money going out, the second thing I realised was it meant I got to really focus on what it was I actually wanted, whether that was a little bit more expensive, which this deck is for me because I don't buy really expensive decks, but I got to really focus on what is it exactly that I want rather than buying lots of little cheaper things. I bought the one thing that I really, really loved. It's a bit like when you're trying to diet and you end up eating 20 things instead of just the one thing that you want, and you would have been better off just getting the one thing and eating that. So it's the same sort of mentality. It really focused me in. So there was a no guilt feeling, and there was a real focus and a real pleasure in spending the money on this deck. Talking about focus, not just with spending, but it focused me on how to use all the other things that I'd got. So for the first like 4 or 5 months of the year, the Arthurian Tarot and the Miss of Avalon Oracle were some of the key decks that I used doing the Arthurian Halo Quest. It was just, I just was using these all the time, and didn't actually want to use any other decks, and it was so refreshing to do. However, Depthia also taught me that I don't necessarily enjoy just solid focusing all the time. So with the Halo Quest, I went all in and was only using these 2 decks with just the odd deck around it. After about 4 months, I really started to get bored. I think boredom is a real natural human trait, and I just wanted to mix it up and play with all the other decks that I was looking at. So unfortunately, the Halo Quest, I got behind and then could never catch up, and then I felt guilty that I was behind, and I stopped doing the Halo Quest. So I'm only about just over a third of the way through the Halo Quest. So I'm going to have to pick that up next year, but I also learned to forgive myself. That's fine. So there's 2 opposites there. My Depthia taught me that I like to be focused in, but not for too long. I also like to just have a play and to get many decks out and to ring the changes. And I think there's a balance in there somewhere to be found for me, because we're all going to be different, and that's okay. Moving from one thing to the other, so say for 3 months focusing on just one deck, and then having a month where I go mad and use like 30 decks, that's okay. So to be focused and to not be focused, I love both. Depthia taught me that. Another thing that Depthia did, it focused my attention outdoors, outside, in nature more. I think it's just a natural consequence of stepping away from consumerism, from sitting on screens, ordering things, from stuff. Stuff isn't stored outside, stuff is always inside. So if your focus is stuff, then you're inside. I found I was more focused outside in Depthia than I've been for a long time, and it was joyous. I think a key deck in that, and a deck that I really connected with in Depthia, was the Stretch Tarot. The Stretch Tarot, with its absolute magical feel. The Stretch Tarot that came with me to Margaret's house on an adventure to link the past. That was such a magical experience, and I think that experience started from searching for new dog walks, and that was because my focus was outside, getting out more, being in nature more, searching for new paths, questing and finding a new dog walk led me to the church, which led me to Margaret's grave, which led me to Margaret's story, which led me to a quest over the hills to find her house with this deck in hand. Massively impactful experiences, if not the most impactful experience of this year. And I think depth year played a fundamental part in that, because my focus was outside and it allowed me to reconnect with something I'd already got and to go out on an adventure. Adventure Tarot was born as well. I'd felt for a while that I was surrounded by stuff all on my desk and I wanted to get away from my desk. I wanted to somehow keep my love of tarot but get away from the idea of just sitting at a desk buying things. I wanted tarot to be part of a vibrant, exciting life outside. Adventure Tarot was born, the quest for the Sheilas. My outdoor altar kit was born and of course again another deck that I'd had for a while that I reconnected with on my quest for the Sheilas, the Dark Goddess Tarot. This had been sat on my shelf unused since I'd had it, along with many others. This was the deck where the card pulled me in, finding out about Sheila and her gigs, and then we started the quest for the Sheilas. We should have done another couple of quests last month, but different things got in the way, but it's still ongoing. And again, those were some of the most exciting days that I've had, exciting experiences outside, exploring on a quest with things I already own, not buying new. And that made me think, and this is another thing that Depth Year made me think about, is shopping just a modern form of wanting to quest? In days of old, there were many quests. The whole world was a quest, like collecting water, walking between villages, no cars. Everybody was outside all the time. Life would have felt way more like a quest than it does today, where everything is spoon-fed to us. I do wonder whether we use shopping as a quest for something. I'm a collector, I've got a collector's gene. I absolutely know that feeling of tracking down things to buy. Any collector will tell you that's part and parcel of what makes us tick. But it's very similar to how I felt when I was outside questing, making links in history, connecting stories, visiting places, seeing tangible evidence in real life, walking down a path that Margaret would have walked years and years ago. It's the same thing. I think shopping is a form of questing, and there's a balance to be had there as well. Not just shopping, but shopping and questing. Sometimes more questing, sometimes more shopping, sometimes it switches. I think questing and shopping are the same thing. So perhaps ask yourself, is your focus not outside enough? Where can you go and find an adventure or invent a quest? Curiosity is the key to that. Just get curious. Ask, I wonder what's down that lane. I wonder who owned that house. I wonder who's buried in that churchyard and what their story is. It can lead you down some pretty amazing rabbit holes with your own individual quest in hand. And lastly, I think my depth year made me calmer. It closed some of the tabs down in my head. And that was wonderful. I think when I was literally saying no buy at all, those tabs closing, it was like a sigh of relief. It was like coming up for air in a raging ocean. Jessica, over at Jessica and the Moon, she did a fantastic depth year video, which I'll link below if you haven't seen it, go and watch it, where she spoke about you need to buy things twice when you bring things into your space. Not only is the monetary buying and the spending and the cost, but there's the emotional energy cost of having that thing in your environment. Anybody that's tried to declutter a cluttered house knows all about that second expenditure. Is it worth your energy? Is it worth your space around you? Is it worth your thoughts? I know when I was going to move house at one point and I started emptying the loft, I cleared the loft of all of the stuff that was up there. It's full again now, so we'll just won't mention that. But at the time it was stuff from the past, from married life. And when I got rid of it all in the lead up to moving house, the emotional release off my shoulders from the stuff going from the loft, it was so incredible to feel that heavy burden lift, even stuff I never look at or never think about. Just knowing that the loft was empty, it made me physically feel different. So there is a second cost to bringing things in, and I felt that cost lessen as the calm came in instead. So that's another thing that Depthia taught me. So how did I do? I've told you I bought one tarot deck. I've also bought a couple of more expensive decks, but I'm not classing that as my break in my Depthia because it's birthday month for me. November is my birthday, and there's Christmas then in December. And like you know, I don't have a partner, I don't have family, just me and the kids, a little team of 4. The kids get upset if I don't have anything for my birthday or anything for Christmas. So I sat down with the kids and I talked to them about it, and I said, what shall I do, because I'm on a no buy year. And they said, please buy yourself something so that we can wrap it up to give to you for your birthday and for your Christmas. So with all of these lessons, I focused on what do I really want. What out of all the decks do I really want? Not lots of little cheap ones. What do I really want? And I treated myself to an oracle and a tarot that are indie decks, which I'll share later on, and I've put them away, and they're away for birthday and Christmas. Again, they don't count. They didn't feel like a break in my no buy year at all. But then the dolls came in. As you know, I collected dolls through the 90s and the beginning of the 2000s. I absolutely was obsessed with dolls. I still have bought the odd doll over the years. I've bought an Ever After High and like vintage dolls where I found them. I use dolls for the toy tarot. I've been painting them. I have a real love for toys and dolls, hence the toy tarot paintings. Things conspired in the last month. Firstly, there was Meg at Rose Honey Ritual doing her video about dolls and decks. She also started a Discord called Dolls and Decks, which I'm not sure how to link Discord, but if you're on Discord and you like dolls and you like decks, go and check out Meg's Discord. So there was Meg's video about dolls, which made me remember I used to collect dolls. They were all in the loft, forgotten about. Other people then in the tarot community started sharing their dolls. It literally blew my mind. That conspired with decluttering because I was going to the charity shop, putting boxes of things to charity, and I found a few little dolls in the charity shop. I found some Mycene Barbies. Well, she's a Mycene Madison. She was 50p. I found this beauty, another Mycene Madison for £1. A few purchases in charity shops. Also swapping my tarot room out for Busby's drumming room and losing the tarot room meant I was in the loft putting some things into storage, and I saw my Barbie collection and I brought them down, started unboxing them, started watching Doll Tube, got into Monster High, bought this beauty for £12. She's a Scarier Reef Monster High doll, and then I was in it. The last month has seen me convert the spare bedroom, a tiny little spare bedroom, into a doll room because I didn't want to put the Barbies back in the loft. I wanted to unbox them all and put them on display. So the doll room is up and running. My second channel, Tiny Soul Whispers, is up and running, and I'll link that down below. In fact, I think it's permanently linked I've done like thrift shopping, like she was 10p. She is more of a witchy doll. The energy in this doll is off the scale. If this doll was a deck, she would be this one. She was only 10p. I've started a Monster High collection. There's a Claudine Wolf locker. That was 50p. What else have I got? I've got this rag doll from the local charity shop, which I bought to kind of get a pattern for making rag dolls and to redo the hair and to get rid of these and turn this into an altered doll. Found a couple of shoppy dolls, which I love. Was only 20p, and she is in some different boots in a bag. These boots were actually from a Descendants doll, which I just found in a bag of scrap from the charity shop, but they fit her feet. So there's things like that starting a new collection. My first ever Bratz doll, which I found to match a hoverboard. She was £12.99, £16 with shipping. So you can see I'm not going mad. I'm not spending hundreds and hundreds of pounds on collector part Barbies. There's a 10p here, there's a 50p there. However, I have bought some newer from the shop dolls for my Christmas and birthday as well. So that's all to come, which I'm super excited about. But my depth year allowed me to cut out the noise and rediscover what I love, and that's what you're seeing with the dolls. This is a lifelong love that had been packed away and buried over with clutter and with other people's words telling me that's ridiculous. Depth year got rid of all of that and allowed me to hear my own voice again saying, these are wonderful. Hello, look at that. Just beyond myself with happiness. You know, are you even living until you've found a second-hand Barbie set with a dog that gives birth to puppies? Very unexpected end to depth. Yeah, if somebody would have told me that I wouldn't have bought hardly any decks or books. Oh, there was one book I bought as well about the Holy Grail. Finding the Nantios Cup made me buy a book on the Grail, which I can't find and I haven't read. So that says a lot, doesn't it, about buying books when you've got so many others to read. So that's a lesson as well. Anyway, an unexpected turn at the end of depth year. But that's how the year went. One deck, one book, and then at the end a flurry of dolls with a brand new doll room. It's been quite the year, or 9 months. Probably the 9-month mark is quite symbolic. I've given birth to a new attitude, 9 months to gestate. So I don't feel any guilt at all for saying that's the end of my no buy year, but depth year continues because I want to stay deep with all of these things. The last thing it's made me realise is just how much stuff I've got, because even with 9 months of no buying, I still haven't got to loads and loads of books, loads and loads of decks, loads and loads of art supplies. In fact, I don't feel like I've even moved the needle in 9 months on getting to those unused items. It just goes to show just how much stuff is around and how little you need, really, how little you can feasibly get to in a year. So with that in mind, moving forward, I'm certainly not going to jump straight into rampant consumerism, although I have to say with the dolls I am not promising too much, because I don't need to say anymore, do I? So I am going to try and keep it calm with the dolls.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Try and stick to thrifted projects where I upcycle dolls, or I change them, or I repaint them. Now that's a rabbit hole to fall down. Repainting and restyling old dolls, turning them to artworks. Oh, there's so much to look forward to, and one of those things that I'm not looking forward to is just falling back into endlessly buying any old deck. Don't want to go there again. There are more exciting paths and quests to go on. So that's it, guys. That's my update for my no buy depth year. I hope you found that interesting. I hope you found it useful. Let me know if you've ever done a no by year or a no by month, or if you're completely overwhelmed with decks and you're considering it. Let me know. Let's open a conversation in the comments section. Thank you so much, guys, for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.